Good evening, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. Will Ukraine get a fast track to the EU? Will Kiev have its voting rights restricted? And how are historical disputes affecting the integration process? To talk about it all and more, we're joined by Katarína Mathernová, EU Ambassador to Ukraine. Good evening, Madam Ambassador.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for accepting it. I'd like us to begin with the news reported by our correspondent in Brussels today. The European Commission is reportedly about to propose restrictions in refugee status for those who leave Ukraine without a proper permit, that is, of a military service age. Now, does Brussels believe that this can strengthen Ukraine's military position? And how does it approach initiatives in countries like Denmark that want to introduce such measures on their own?
I think we should wait till tomorrow's announcement on the extension of the temporary protection, and there will be lots of commentary, including what it means for the people, especially men, in military age. I will leave my comments to that right now.
There's just one more thing that I would like to clarify. Now, will these new measures apply only to new applicants from Ukraine, or does the European Commission also consider those who left the country after the full-scale invasion in 2022?
Let's find out tomorrow.
Ukraine would like to get a fast track to the EU. Now, how likely is that scenario, and how do European institutions regard this idea?
I think there is a lot of discussions on how to make the accession to the EU a little more modern. Let's not forget that the process that we have right now is still the same one under which Spain and Portugal acceded 40 years ago. So there is certainly scope to making the process more agile and more adapted to the accelerated age that we live in. I don't know whether I would necessarily call it fast track, but we certainly can take advantage of the many reforms Ukraine has taken, not only since applying for EU accession on 28th of February 2022, but in fact from the Maidan Revolution of Dignity, which is the date from which Ukrainians count their desire to join the European Union. So I think there is a lot to build on. I think there is a lot of scope to find a way how to make some of these processes faster, and how to balance the reform needs that have been and the reform demands and reforms that have been taking place with the geopolitical challenge and opportunity that Ukrainian membership entails.
There's a lot to build on. Fully agree with that. And Ukraine has already opened the first cluster of negotiations with the EU, and yet Hungary is against rushing into the other clusters. Budapest would rather see Kiev joining the bloc in the next 10 to 15 years, according to media. Now, how would you comment on Hungary's stance?
Well, first, I want to say that today, 25th of June, is the second anniversary of the time when EU member states officially opened the negotiations. At the first intergovernmental conference in Luxembourg that took place in 2024 on the 25th of June. And it has taken, without few weeks, 2 years to open the first cluster. So I don't think at this stage we are really rushing into anything, and I very much hope that there will be an opportunity to find 27-member consensus to now really move into the official negotiations, because in fact that is the time when we will have maximum leverage and maximum opportunity to really sit down and discuss what we need from Ukraine to carry out in terms of reforms and what we are going to be offering on our side. I remember the discussions very well from the time that my country, Slovakia, just like Poland, were applying to the EU, and we joined in 2004. And the moment after which we officially opened negotiations and started discussing was really the one that accelerated all the domestic reforms.
You're talking about a consensus now. France and Germany would like to see Ukraine and other new EU members, namely Moldova, have their voting rights restricted for a transitional period to avoid rule of law disputes. Now, is this an acceptable solution to the European Commission?
Well, I think what I see, the various proposals, whether the German one or the German-French one and others from various think tanks, etc., I think are all attempts to see how the process can be made more fit for purpose in today's accelerated age and our new reality, and at the same time give the countries perspective that is not only at the end of the road. Because what I meant by the process being essentially the same as 40 years ago is that you have a very, very, very lengthy negotiation period, and all the benefits of membership come only at the end and at once, overnight. And that has disincentives to keep the public, etc., with you, because you are not seeing any benefits in between. So I wouldn't look at it as restricting rights. I think I would look at it as offering opportunities, partly opportunities of the membership before the actual membership takes place.
And yet, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky rejects such an idea. How would you comment on that?
I think that the views in Ukraine are evolving. I think that initially the reaction was from all quarters, not only from the authorities, but also the analysts and civil society, etc., very much the same. And over time, when discussions started taking place, there is a more nuanced approach. And I think if there was a serious attempt to see how we can use some of the benefits of membership, but not having the full membership yet, but with the acknowledgement that eventually the goal is full membership, I think that one could get an agreement on that.
Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski stated today at the Ukraine Recovery Conference Forum in Gdańsk that it is more a process of adaptation than negotiation, adding that Kiev must rather focus on implementing EU standards than trying to rewrite them. Now, do you see Ukraine trying to change the rules already existing within the EU?
No, I see Ukraine as actually being very busy at trying to understand and then adapt to the rules. Radek Sikorski and I exchanged on this many times. I'm fully in agreement with his view that this is not a process of negotiation. In fact, I think the word negotiation is a little bit misleading because it implies a give and take, whereas on EU accession, the rules are there to be taken. What you really negotiate about is any kind of temporary periods that the rules may not apply, or the support you will get in the implementation of the rules. So I am very much with Radek on his view that negotiations is not really what this process is about.
According to the latest poll published in the Polish media, the recent historical dispute between Kiev and Warsaw led to some 60% of Poles rejecting the idea of Ukraine in the EU. Now, that's something that seemed absolutely unthinkable only a few months ago. Now, how is the EU willing to address this issue?
Well, look, it's primarily an issue between Poland and Ukraine. I understand that there is a lot of grievances from the past. I understand the relationship has traditionally not been an easy one, although the last 20 years have actually not been the testimony to it. And in fact, Poland has been a huge supporter of Ukraine from the very first day of the full-scale invasion, and I very much hope that the two countries that I both hold very dearly to my heart, both Poland and Ukraine, will find a way to a common understanding and seeing that they are not each other's enemy. The enemy is somewhere else.
Now, historical disputes is one thing, but the other. Well, EU members of the CEE region maintain their embargo on certain agricultural products from Ukraine. Now, is there still a room for a compromise that both protects local farmers and preserves support for Ukraine and its long-term integration into the EU?
Well, in fact, the embargo that the countries bordering Ukraine have done is exactly what protected their farmers. Ukraine was transporting its agricultural produce, grain, etc., through our countries, through Poland, through Slovakia, through Romania, and they were in fact destined for third markets. So I think that there is a lot of emotion around this issue. There is a lot of disinformation, and I would even say cognitive warfare around this issue. And I think that there is certainly scope within the association agreement, eventual discussions on EU accession, as well as WTO rules, to find a way how local farmers don't feel assaulted or overrun by competition, and how Ukrainian produce and commodities can find their way to the third markets. And frankly, there was 2 years ago very tense moment, but what the modus operandi we have found has been working.
Katarína Mathernová, EU Ambassador to Ukraine, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews here on TVP World.